All right, welcome everyone. Ready to dive into some Overwatch 2 patch notes.
Always ready to break down some hero updates. Let's see what they've cooked up this time.
Yeah, so we're looking specifically at the October 29th, 2024 patch.
Yeah.
And some pretty interesting changes in there.
Some big shifts for sure.
Yeah, Sombra hacking out of stealth.
That's a big one.
Orisa getting tougher, but maybe having to think a bit more about how she uses her abilities.
Definitely going to shake things up for players. That's what I think is so interesting about these updates, though. Like, it really seems like Blizzard is pushing for more strategic play. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's not just about raw power anymore. It's about using your abilities at the right time and thinking about how they work together.
Exactly, and how they work against the enemy team.
Right. Okay, so let's start with the tanks. What do you think about these Orisa changes?
Well, she's definitely going to be able to take more punishment now with that base health increase.
Yeah, but they also decreased her armor, right?
Right, so there's a trade-off there. She's vulnerable to armor-piercing attacks.
So you're going to have to position her more carefully and think about the enemy team comp.
Definitely. And then there's the Fortify change. No more heat reduction for Fusion Driver while it's active.
Ooh, that's a big one for Orisa players.
No more just holding down the trigger and melting everything in sight.
Got to be a little more careful with that energy management now.
Exactly. Pick your moments, use Fortify strategically. I think it adds a whole new layer to her gameplay.
Speaking of strategy, let's move on to Ramattra. His pummel is piercing barriers again. But there's a catch, right?
Right. It won't do critical damage to barriers anymore.
So it's giving him back some of that crowd control power, but not making him like completely overpowered against shields.
Exactly. It's a delicate balance.
Okay, now get ready for this. Wrecking Ball is even more mobile.
More ammo.
More ammo.
Man.
Longer grappling claw duration.
Wow, okay. They are really doubling down on his disruption potential.
Yeah, imagine him swinging around for even longer, like contesting points, harassing the back line. It's gonna be chaos.
Yeah, and with more ammo, he can really sustain that pressure.
Do you think this could bring back dive comps? Like Wrecking Ball causing havoc in the back line while
Someone like Sombra disables key targets. Now that's a scary thought.
Oh yeah. And speaking of Sombra, she's seen probably the biggest change in this patch. No more stealth hacking.
Big change. Yeah, no more lurking in the shadows and just hacking people with impunity. Now she's got to come out of stealth to do it.
It's a pretty bold move by Blizzard, right?
It is. I think they're trying to address that feeling that she was a little too safe while hacking.
Yeah, it definitely gave her the upper hand in a lot of situations. But to make up for that, they've reduced the cost of her EMP ultimate, and her translocator lets her get back into stealth a lot faster.
Yeah, it's like they're encouraging her to be more active, more in your face with her disruption.
More calculated, more strategic. You can't just hack willy-nilly anymore. You got to think about your positioning, your timing.
And the enemy team actually has a chance to react now. If you see her coming out of stealth to hack, you can try to shut her down.
Yeah, so it's not a guaranteed shutdown anymore. It's more of a mind game.
Right, I like that. It adds a whole new layer of depth to those encounters.
All right, so we've talked tanks, we've talked damage. What about supports? Are they getting left out in the cold here?
Not at all.
Juno.
Exactly. They've nerfed her orbital ray healing a bit.
But that healing game was so strong. Like, I've been on the receiving end of that and felt practically invincible.
I know, right? It was pretty potent.
So is this going to make her less of a must-pick?
It might shift things around a bit. It's not a huge nerf, but it does bring her more in line with other supports.
So it's not just about raw healing output anymore, is it? It's about all the other things supports bring to the table.
Right, like buffs, debuffs, crowd control.
Yeah, they're almost like force multipliers now.
Exactly. They can really enable their team to play more aggressively and make those big plays.
So what do you think? Will Juno still be a top pick after this?
I think she'll still be strong, but we might see other supports with more utility, like Brigitte or Ana, become more popular in certain situations.
Yeah, it's not just about keeping your team alive, it's about making the enemy team more vulnerable too.
Exactly. And this adjustment to her healing output might make those other supports, the ones with more utility, even more appealing.
Okay, so we've covered tanks, damage, supports. What do you think is the most impactful change in this patch?
Tough one. It's hard to pick just one because they all have the potential to really shake things up. But if I had to choose, I think that Sombra change, the stealth hack change, could be the most disruptive.
Yeah, it's a pretty fundamental shift to how she's played.
Exactly. No more easy hacks.
Yeah.
Sombra players are going to have to really up their game and think strategically about when and where to engage.
Be a lot more risky, too.
And it opens up a lot of counterplay potential for the other team. If you're aware of Sombra, you can bait out her hack or be ready to react when she comes out of stealth.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. So it's not an instant win for her anymore.
Yep.
Okay, speaking of winning, let's talk about the meta. How do you think these changes are going to shake things up? Any early predictions on what heroes might rise to the top?
Well, it's early days, obviously. But if I had to guess, I think we might see a resurgence of dive comp.
Oh, interesting.
But with a twist. Remember, Wrecking Ball is even more mobile now. Andy, we have this new, more strategic Sombra.
True. So Wrecking Ball disrupts the backline while Sombra hacks key targets. And then what? Who else would fit into that comp?
Well, you still need someone to deal damage and secure those kills. Maybe Tracer or Soldier 76 for some long-range poke.
And for heals?
Lucio, probably. His speed boost would be great for getting that dive comp in and out quickly.
Okay, that sounds pretty deadly. But what about the other side of the coin? What about the teams that are trying to counter dive?
I think we might see a resurgence of brawl comps. You know, the more tanky, close-range heroes.
Ooh, so like Reinhardt, Zarya?
Exactly. Maybe even Roadhog making a comeback. And don't forget Orisa, she might not be able to melt people with her fusion driver anymore, but she's a lot tougher overall and could be a real anchor for a brawl comp.
And with Ramattra's humble piercing barriers again, he could be a real asset against those shield-heavy comps too.
Right, he can disrupt those range shields, create space for his team to push in. It's going to be interesting to see how he's used.
Man, I'm getting hyped just thinking about all these new possibilities. So many different team compositions, so many strategies to explore.
It's what makes Overwatch so great.
It never gets old. It's constantly evolving and changing and keeping you on your toes.
That's for sure.
I don't know about you, but I'm itching to jump back into the game and see how it all plays out.
Me too. Gotta start practicing those new Sombra hacks and figure out how to make the most of that beefed up Wrecking Ball.
Yeah. So many new things to master. What about you, dear listener? What are you most excited to experiment with after this patch? Are you going to be a stealthy Sombra? A disruptive Wrecking Ball?
Or maybe you'll discover a whole new playstyle that no one's even thought of yet.
That's the beauty of it, right?
Yeah.
There's always room for innovation and creativity in Overwatch.
Absolutely. The possibilities are endless. So get out there, experiment, have fun, and most importantly,
Don't be afraid to try something new.
exactly. You never know. You might stumble upon the next meta-defining strategy.
Okay, so we've delved deep into the hero updates, analyzed the potential meta shifts, made a few bold predictions, but now it's your turn to weigh in. What are your thoughts on all this? Do you agree with what we've been talking about?
Yeah, like what are your predictions for the meta?
Head over to our socials, let us know what you think.
We want to hear your hot takes, your bold predictions, you know, the whole 9 yards.
So stay curious out there, keep experimenting, and never stop exploring the world of Overwatch 2. This has been The Deep Dive, your shortcut to understanding the WHY behind the changes.
Until next time,
Keep those gaming chairs warm and those strategies sharp.
see you in the game.